And we have someone from Queensland. You probably brought us some warm weather. Kate Zubrinich is manager for Data and Analytics, Local Government Association of Queensland. And Kate is going to present us a case study about amplifying a collaborative data culture within your organization, and it is to drive positive results to the public good. And Kate worked in Australian government for over a decade and has led and delivered initiatives to grow organizational capability in the use and management of data. She's also providing people with the right tools and support to foster a positive and fruitful relationship with data. That's quite a topical right now. And by leveraging her passion for data and experience in connecting people, systems, and processes to enable a strong data culture, she has enabled data governance and centralized data functions, data strategies, and data analytics. So you can start thinking about your questions right now. Kate, we welcome you on stage. Thank you.
That was quite the introduction, so hopefully I live up to that. So yeah, as was mentioned, I'm here to talk about amplifying a collaborative data culture to drive positive results for public good. It's a very long title. When I was first presented with that, I was sitting around thinking, what on earth am I going to talk about? Where do I focus on? And then I reflected and went, hang on, this is actually my day job. It has been my day job for the past good number of years. So I thought I'd start with explaining a little bit about my past, a little bit about me. I'm going to have to click that button, not this button. That one? That one. So I've worked in the data field for 15 years-ish, 12-ish in management positions. I've been in a number of industries, utilities, insurance, a little bit of banking. Most recently, I'm working with the Local Government Association of Queensland. Does anyone know what that organisation is, does? Some nods, some hands up. Amazing. So basically what LGAQ does for Queensland, we're the peak body for all Queensland councils. So there's 77 councils, 2 more that we also support that are non-members, they're associate members. And essentially we, as an organisation, help advocate to state and federal government for funding, for legislative change, for all sorts of things that relate to local government. My role in that organisation is to help councils improve their data literacy and data maturity. Now, that's a very big role. I have a grand total of 4 staff, and we have to help all councils in Queensland. It's ginormous. So why is it that we need a collaborative data culture? Now, there's been a number of people that have stolen some of my stats here, which that's fine. So 90% of the stat that I found was 90% of the world's data has been produced in the last 2 years alone. A lot of data, all its permutations, all the new roles that are coming up, they're new. 5 years ago, data science was kind of like a new emerging thing in a lot of organisations. I don't know that any councils in Queensland would have really thought about that as a something. Now it's sort of the standard. They want to get that in their organisations. People are becoming more and more aware of what data is, what it can do for them, how they can get more out of it. So we need to help our communities more with that. Now, one of the things that I've noticed over the past few years is this evolution, and we've talked about it a lot today, and I expect that we probably will do more so over the next day and a half. Every year there's new trends that seem to keep coming up. A few years ago, I was at a conference, and I've been lucky enough to go into this particular conference for 3 years in a row. The first year I went, it was all about big data. All of this massive amounts of data, what can it do for us? We can do all sorts of stuff with it, great. The following year was all about AI. We've got our big data, we've got all this stuff. What are we going to do with it? We're going to drive insights, we're going to drive predictive models, we're going to start predicting the future. This year, it's all about data governance. It's done this full circle of, we've got all this data, we're doing some stuff with it. Oh, hang on, our data quality is not great. We're not putting all the metadata around it. We're not governing it well. So all those AI predictive models that we've got, they're now giving us the wrong answers. They're telling us things that are actually really erroneous. So this is highlighting to me that old adage of garbage in, garbage out. All our systems, if we put the wrong stuff in, we get the wrong stuff out. It's also highlighted that we can't work in silos anymore. And a lot of councils, and I imagine a lot of the organisations that we work for, we're all working in silos. I'm talking to a room of data professionals. We all know data inside and out. We know all the things to do with data, statistic models, whatever. We don't know the ins and outs of what a frontline worker has to do to get the road fixed. We're not on the phone with the customer answering those questions about why are my rates so high. We need to work more collaboratively with those frontline staff and with our entire organisations to get that collective knowledge. So how do we do that? Now, there's many different ways to tackle that, and we're all going to tackle it a little bit differently, but we all need to start doing this. In my role, I'm lucky enough to get to see a lot of organisations that are in various levels of their data journey. Actually, hang on, let me go back. So I'm going to focus on a few things that I've sort of learnt over the past few years on how do we tackle this with our organisations. So the first thing is to assess your organisation's actual maturity. So, and when I say that, I mean your actual maturity, not just we think we're here, we really want to be here and put rose-coloured glasses on and get an answer. Actually assess where you're actually at. Do you have a data governance framework? Do you have a data warehouse? All these sorts of things. Now, working with councils, one of the things that we hear a lot is that they're very, very immature. I don't know, is that sort of a thing in government? So this is this sort of standard maturity model that we've probably all seen a lot. It's a take on the Gartner one, really. Now, when I first started with local government, a bit over 3 years ago now, I thought councils were sort of in that space. I thought they were in this bit of, they've got some data, they've got maybe some cubes, they're doing some reports, they're doing some stuff. We heard consistently, we want to be up here. We want to do predictive models. We want to do those, we want to figure out when to go and fix that pipe instead of reacting to it when it bursts. Within probably 6 months, myself and my boss, because she started at the same time-ish as me, we were very quickly re-educated on speaking with a number of councils. They're down here. In fact, that's actually probably optimistic for some councils. There's been some councils that we hear a lot saying, we're not even on your chart, we're off it. There was one council in particular, and I can't remember which one it is now because I've heard it quite a lot now, who actually said to us, oh, our data, it's in the next room in archive boxes. Have fun. So we went, okay, that's great. This is really resetting what we need to do with councils. So we're hearing a lot of this, we don't know what to do, we don't have the right systems, we don't have data governance practices, our systems are outdated. So that's then sort of caused us to go, how do we actually help councils to start this maturity journey? They all need to go on it, they all recognise it, they just don't know how. So we've now come up with the other thing I should mention as well is that the councils that we're working with, say the majority of them that we're working with are down the bottom. There are some that are doing amazing things. There's some that have got IoT devices that are doing that predictive maintenance or predictive asset maintenance for them. There's a lot of councils that are in that, or I shouldn't say a lot, some councils that are in that space, most are down the bottom. But we have to work with all of them and try and raise that maturity across the board. So the next thing that I sort of focus on with councils is they come to us generally with a problem. They come to us with we want to do something. We've turned that around and go, well, why is it that you're trying to do that? What are you trying to do? Now, I'm guilty of this quite a lot, as I imagine a lot of people that have come from a data reporting world is you get stuck in solution mode very quickly. Someone comes to you with I want a dashboard or I want a report, and we just go, great, let me build that for you, done. Not focusing on why do you want that? What's driving that request for that? What's the problem that you're trying to solve? So one of the things that we start to focus on to start building that culture and start thinking, getting councils to think more about how they use their data or what they do with it, is go back to the why. What are you trying to do here? And often what we find is that councils may actually say to us one thing, and we go, we can find a path to get to that end result for you, but maybe that involves us breaking down some barriers. Maybe that involves us thinking about something completely differently to how we did it before. I'm just going to talk about a case study that we've had recently. So, what would it be? It's 2024, a year and a half ago-ish. We had a council, Flinders Shire Council. Does anyone know where Flinders is? No, you know where it is. It's out and up. So it's sort of, I'd say probably dead centre Queensland, maybe a little bit north of that. They struggle to get staff in to do all sorts of things, and they have a real focus, or they were having a problem with a number of their community members coming to council meetings and saying, where are you spending our money? We're paying you all this rates money, where are you spending it? We want you to spend it with local suppliers. Or they had other things that they're raising at these meetings. The council was then having, or the CEO was then having to take that information back to his staff, say, go and find me an answer, go and give me some results that I can take back to the next council meeting to answer those questions for the community. So he said, he came to us with I want dashboards. We went, why? What are you trying to do? So we actually worked with him to come up with some well, it did end up being dashboards, that's fine. But they're actually on the council website. So it was actually to start to deliver information back to the community in a safe way, so it's not identifiable information, it's just insights to help answer the questions before the people get to the council meetings. So they come in with informed questions instead of just random questions. It's then cutting down on time that the staff have to spend doing the analysis and coming back to the council next time around with answers. It's also starting to build that the staff at council now understand what it is that they're trying to answer the questions for. So in doing this, one of the things that we also do is partner with our stakeholders. So not that get a requirements document, take it away, build it, hand it back. It's actually we sit down and we work with them. So face-to-face, try and understand what it is they're trying to do, what data are they getting, how are they getting that information. Just checking I'm not missing anything. Now in doing this, we're actually getting down in the dirt with them. Now, I'm also going to talk to another case study, again with Flinders, where in doing this, getting down in the dirt with them, understanding their processes, understanding what it is that they're doing to capture their information, we start to develop their understanding of data a bit more, but we're understanding their business a bit more as well. So in this process, one of the dashboards that we were asked to build was the community wanted to know, what is it that, why do we have a visitor information centre? Who's even coming into our area that we need to be working with? So they wanted to be able to show to the community who is coming to our community, who's driving our tourism. So we started to build a dashboard with them. Now it was essentially, they just gave us a spreadsheet of information and we started working on it, which was great. We then started to find some problems with it. We started to find some errors in the data and then went, okay, let's partner with the person that we're working with. Let's work with the SME on this and understand what it is that's doing this. In drilling into that process, we actually found that how they were getting that data was someone at the Visitor Information Centre was capturing on a piece of paper, writing it down, how many people have come in today. They then handed those pieces of paper over to someone else who put it into a spreadsheet, who put it into another report that then drove the end report for council at the end of the month. Someone entered data wrong. A formula was wrong, so it didn't add up all of the fields right. So there were more children than adults, the other way around. I don't know, something happened and it was all a bit weird. So in doing that, we've actually started going, okay, well, what is it that we can do to not just get you an outcome that shows your community what's happening, but how do we actually change that and give you some new process that helps you capture that information better, starts your understanding of the data a little bit better, how you capture it, what governance you need to put around it. How can we help you? So we actually changed that into, we built them a form. Something as simple as building them a form that they put onto an iPad at the branch that the customer filled in. Where are you from? How many kids are you bringing? Automatically went into the system, took out basically 2 pieces of work that people didn't want to do. They didn't want to be having to capture this information and recollate it. We then got the information daily and it was automatically updated. It was correct. So this started then telling the story back to the council of how do we actually use this to drive other processes for you, to start that journey for you in your organisation. Which then, the next point is working iteratively and being flexible. My team works in an agile methodology. How many of us work agile or know what I'm talking about? This is amazing. You're all my people. Now, among other things, the key crux of agile methodology is that you break your work down into small chunks so that you can then pivot. If you get stuck on something, you can pivot to the next thing or change your path really quickly. Now, in doing this process, we were able to work, like I said, with the people very closely. We were working one-to-one with a person. We were drilling into their information. We were showing them the results along the way, going, this doesn't look right, how do we make it right, so on and so forth. We then, when we got to a point of this is where we're at, we were able to showcase to their management, this is what we've built, is this what you're looking for? Bringing the users along the journey as well, so they're taking ownership of that. So that's where you start to build that collaborative data culture. It's not just me working with your data, you're working with your data. You're starting to understand it, you're starting to get better at it. Now, a similar thing that we've done recently is worked with another council where, similar process, they actually came to us and said, we've got this monthly report, we want to build that report interactively. Great. What do you mean by that? Turns out they actually meant we just want it digital so that we don't have to print it and give it to people. So that was fine. But we went, let's use this as an opportunity to help you grow in your organisation. Being digital and being data conscious isn't just put it into a computer and you're done. So we actually started to work with them. We got their report, and the first step that we did was very little. It was a tiny piece. We converted that report to a digital report. It was in Power BI. They could interact with it. We then turned it into, we added some additional charts that had some additional interactivity. You could click one and it filtered the next. From there, we then added more things. We started building that out and then released it to their staff or to their management as an interactive report. Now, the reason that I like to call, this is sort of the example of what we did. The reason I like to call this out is because the users that we worked with, we actually spent a fair bit of time with them, going through their process, what is it that they're doing, where are they capturing their data. We started to understand what their pain points were. So some of the things that we found is that they didn't have a data warehouse. What they did have as a data warehouse, I put that in inverted commas because it wasn't really, their IT team struggled to grow. So we sort of went, how can we help you to at least put some, and I shouldn't probably admit to this publicly, but I will anyway, put some rails around what you're doing. Even if it is a little bit of shadow IT, we sort of did a bit of a, let's put your data into what can be easily pushed into a data warehouse when your IT team's ready. We can put the right controls around it, we can put the right metadata, so on and so forth. So we were sort of upskilling them on that process of how do you treat your data. The unexpected benefit was that once we spent all this time with that council, we got a report a few weeks ago where they're actually now at their staff meetings presenting their reports, showing them like, look what I've built. And their other team members are picking up on that. Their other staff across the organisation are going, oh, I want that. How do I get that? And now that person that we've worked with, or those couple of people, are now starting to share that story. So it becomes a big groundswell. You really focus in on your data champion, they start to become your advocate. They start to generate that culture change across your organisation. Now this is underpinning everything. Everyone's fully aware of it. Data quality, data governance is our problem. It's our problem child. It's always going to be our problem child. A lot of the times when we have conversations with councils, we hear our data's not good enough quality for us to do anything with it. Just come back to us in a year. We'll be ready then. Sure you will. Sure. So we sort of try to focus it on a few things. I get that your data quality is not good now, but you're just saying that anecdotally. You don't know necessarily what that actually looks like. So let's help you understand that a little bit. Not use it as a stick, as a you're doing really bad things, but help you to learn, help you to be better. So build some dashboards for your customers, for your stakeholders to say this is what your data quality looks like. Now this is an example of what we actually use internally on how our data quality for our contacts in our CRM looks. How many first names are we missing? Now I've filtered this so it looks a bit better, but one of the areas, not great. But it's upon showing this to your customer, to your stakeholders, this is what real looks like for you. So it's coming back to that first point of assessing your maturity. This is what real looks like for you. How do we help fix it? How do we help grow this culture in our organisation where we're all taking ownership of our data? Be transparent about it. Put it in a dashboard. Share it with everyone. Again, don't use it as a stick, use it as a learning implement. This will then identify who we can call out in our business as someone who wants to change things. As soon as we started, or my team started showing these dashboards to our organisation, we had people in certain areas that went, oh, that's horrible, let me fix it, how do I fix it, what do I do? So it was actually upon just showing people that they then wanted to take ownership, they wanted to change it. And as soon as they started getting better, other people wanted to do the same. So it's sort of focusing in on one person or a couple of people to start getting them to do your marketing, essentially. I'll take a drink before I talk about the next one, because this has been said a lot. Progress over perfection. Can't call that out enough. You're never going to get better if you don't start. So it's always about, even if your data quality is 95% bad, fine, but you're never going to get it to 90% and 80% and so on if you don't start. So just do something. Something is better than nothing. There's no point putting it off. You'll never get there if you keep putting it off. So my key takeaways from this presentation have been basically that the 5 things that I tend to focus on are understand your maturity, really understand what it is that you're trying to drive towards, focus on why you're trying to drive towards that, partner with your stakeholders, partner with them to get them starting to own it, work iteratively. Don't expect that what you think is the outcome today is going to be your outcome tomorrow. It will change. Be flexible to that. And I'll call it out again, progress over perfection. That's probably the key thing. The only thing that I'm going to add to this is that as I was practicing this presentation, I was kind of struggling getting through each of the examples. I'm like, well, that example applies to that step, and that example applies to that step. What it really called out is that all of these things need to be used together to really start to drive that change in your organisations. And each time we work closer with our business owners and our stakeholders, the closer we get to getting a more collaborative data culture and getting them to be our advocates. So that's pretty much it. If anyone has any questions, thank you.
Are there any questions?
Thank you. This is a very good example in the current implementation of projects. That's a very good way. But you mentioned one of the council is doing very good. You are taking track like a parent, and there are children. Some are naughty, some are good, manageable. But what is the challenge with other council when your government has dealt with one council which is improving, and are those existing councils who are doing good, can't they market to the other council?
When you say market to them, as in sell what they're doing or help them?
It's like when we concentrate on one council, when they have done so much big changes happen, when they are doing their own marketing within them, can't the lessons learned by other council, is it not easy to
make a fantastic
what is the real challenge at present?
So similar to how individually in our own organisations we work in silos, councils work in silos. They don't talk to each other, especially in areas like data. It's not a common thing for a lot of councils. It's a very new concept. So they work very independently of each other. One of the things that we've sort of started doing to help bridge that gap is implement things like Workplace by Meta. Does anyone know what that is? It's basically Facebook for business. What we've done is implement that within our organisation and then build collaboration groups that we invite people that we see in this space into that group across all the councils. They can then start to network within there and network with like-minded people. And one person might go, hey, what did we have recently? Someone that's working with a new contact centre software that they want to get insights out of, but they don't know how. So they reached out in that group. Does anyone else use this? How can you help me? Unfortunately, they didn't get any responses, but that's the sort of thing. So it's not so much selling what they do to each other, it's more helping them collaborate and helping them use other people's examples.
So what is the strategy which you guys want to follow in this data governance, implementing at the organizational level in this kind of scenario? Or like you are doing like something like a federated data governance kind of thing, which works well, but in the long-term strategy, what is that key intake which you guys want to take forward? That's a good lesson for most of the other people who want to incorporate data governance.
Yeah.
Especially the data quality. It's a basic thing, most of the organizations which is missing.
So it's a really good question, and it's not something that's easy to tackle, or it's not something that I find easy to tackle, because pretty much every council in Queensland uses different permutations of software. They have different naming for things. They do things very differently. So what works for one council won't necessarily work for the next. One of the things that I'd really like to start building is a framework for how do we help you with like a generalised framework in that space, and then start to bring organisations into the fold basically, and it'll take a very, very long time, but start to bring them into getting that sort of centralised framework. Don't know how quickly that'll happen.
Yeah, this is good. I appreciate. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you so much.
If we don't have any more questions, let's thank Kate for wonderful presentation and so much information. Thank you.